Hello again, and welcome back to The Vocal Mind. My name is Tirzah Elese, and I am the host of this podcast where we talk all things education. We challenge norms, we delve into complex or topical topics that's in the discussion in the world today, with the aim to work with professionals and experts to change the education paradigm, to get it right for our kids, and to do what we really need to be doing in order to empower them to have the skills that they need after school. I am very lucky today to be sat across from Stephen Parkin. Welcome, Stephen.
Great to be here, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast, and great to see you again.
You're welcome. And I was really lucky to meet Stephen. In fact, in a slightly unusual way, we met on TikTok. I was doing some scrolling, and I was impressed by the videos that Stephen was putting out around helping parents to understand the complex world of AI, which is inevitably going to be at the front doors of all of our teenagers and young people. And his company is called Kids AI Explained.
You got that
right. Focuses on helping parents to understand their role and what they need to know in order to enable their kids. Anything more you want to tell us about yourself, Stephen?
Thanks for that. Yeah, I think that in a nutshell says what I do, and yeah, it's an interesting space to be working in. It's a space that's always changing, which excites me. And but I guess just by way of a little bit of background, just for our listeners today, and I come from an education and children's mental health background, and I've always been interested in processes, and particularly technology, around how it changes our lives and how it impacts us as a society. And then so being a father myself, and then thinking about, well, how is AI going to affect my child's life, and what world are they going to grow up into? I was thinking, I started looking for information, and there's this huge gap, I think, around advice for parents around what AI means for their children. And I thought that I felt a responsibility and a great personal interest to start sharing information around this. So I've been on my journey around this as a parent as well.
It's a really empowering personal story. And I believe that's why you're so skilled and passionate in the videos you put out, because it's very meaningful to you and it's something that's driving you. But on that note, let's go back 30 years when Google and the internet was starting to emerge as a new entity within our world. I remember there being a lot of fear and a lot of negativity and a lot of even sort of scaremongering around what it was going to do to us as a society or as a race. And it was going to remove us from our independent thinking. It was going to make the pathway to gaining knowledge too easy. People wouldn't be as smart. I hear that happening now more and more, even with young people my children's age, 25, 26, 18. And some parents are more open-minded to the possibilities and the opportunities, while others are sitting maybe in the darkness or fearful. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your experience so far?
No, indeed. I think it's a really, really interesting point to start. And I think if also kind of bring into the discussion around other forms of technological development, then I have a personal interest in the arts. And so photography was going to be the death of anything created, such as a painting. I remember personally then email becoming, I guess, is that extension of Google and the internet, and using email for the first time on a small laptop in a very far remote place in the world. It was a great lifeline to communicate. But I remember those conversations around, well, how is email going to take over our lives? How is it, or is it actually something that's going to help us?
Yeah.
And again, I guess also that I remember that first time I used Google, and I think as a teen, and remember always sitting with my brother and using the internet for the first time. And then I think that kind of experience I hold on to, in that remembering how I didn't care about rules or regulations, and I just kind of started tapping away and see where it took me. And ultimately a slightly disappointing experience, I remember, ultimately being something that's quite interesting. So I think we're in one of those moments right now where there is a lot of expectation, there's a lot of noise, and I think the other, it's so easy for us to kind of hold on to the headlines, and we're all bombarded by information, and it's impossible to process all the information that we receive. And so I think AI can get, from a young person's perspective and a learning perspective, it's like, well, AI is cheating. And I did a post on TikTok yesterday about how young people are using AI in ChatGPT in their studies, and the responses were around it's cheating. And I think that's just a very sort of timely moment, where we are reminded that we can respond to those headlines. It's like the headlines of AIs taking our jobs, and that's, if we start to look between the headlines, particularly around jobs, then we came out of, the world came through the pandemic at different phases, and there'd never been any more, there was a time where there's never been any more jobs available as we came out of the pandemic. And then if you start comparing jobs availability now, then it's a really unfair comparison versus 2021, as well as what's been happening in the world economy. So it's very easy to hold on to these headlines, and I get that. But I think that we need to really step back from the headline.
I think what you're saying is so vital. Like, there's so much to unpack there. But, the thing that kept coming to my mind as you were talking is video killed the radio star, right? Like, it's historic, like human nature fears something different, even though we want it as well. We want risk, we want difference and challenge and growth. But then when it comes around to us, we feel uncertain because we don't understand it. And we'll always fear what we don't understand.
And I think that with AI, then there's that added fear and added lack of clarity, because it's the first time a tool has been able to, ever in the history of humans, be able to think on its own. And we need to unpack what think means. And again, all the news headlines around AI becoming its own form of intelligence and then taking over humans. But again, if you look at, that we've gone from having no particularly generative AI in our day-to-day vocabulary, suddenly in the last 2 years, it's exploded. And again, that explosion is a lack of clarity and opportunity. And you look at what the experts are saying around AI. Yes, on one hand, it's the new electricity, but we're a very long way. And also, the world needs to catch up on regulation and ethics around AI as well. And that's a challenge.
Yeah. I think one key message that's coming to my mind from what you're saying is actually continually reminding parents, young people, or skeptics, whoever they might be, that actually it is human nature for us to push against the new.
Yeah.
But in fact, if we continue to do that, or we allow ourselves to be driven by nature rather than a determination to learn, we're going to miss out, because it's coming whether we want it or not, right?
You hit the nail.
Train is already going.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, again, it's kind of taking that example of email. It's like, well, you don't have a choice to use email if you're in a, let's say, the very smallest level of professional service job, which that is a huge part of the knowledge and information economy. Young people, this is already, whether it's young people or adults, AI is already an integral part of our lives. And whether or not it's because of what's, the way Alexa makes recommendations, the way that YouTube makes recommendations, autocomplete. And I think also in the last couple of months that and I guess probably by preface for saying some of the things I will say are not available in all AIs in all parts of the world right now, because it's these things are being rolled out. But if you now go onto Google, you see the AI summary, it's there in front of you. But additionally, in the last month or so, then you've got an AI button, and the same on WhatsApp or Facebook, you've got a button that takes you directly into AI. It's not only informing our lives, these tools are right in front of us. There's not that conscious decision to go somewhere else like there is with Google in order to make a search away from the things that we're using in our day-to-day lives. So it's already surrounding us, and this is not going away. And yes, there's been conversations in the press again around, is AI overhyped? And in comparison to the .com world, then the fundamentals are very different. Yes, there's huge amount of investment. It's growing very quickly, but it's so integrated already into so many parts of our lives and so many ways of operating that, and the benefits of it, the .com benefits are very unclear, but the benefits of AI, they're much clearer and still evolving all of the time. So
I think it segues nicely into the sort of key topic that I really want to get sort of the meat of the bones from today is there's a lot of learning that needs to take place in order for us as a society to use this monster of a thing that is AI. And both parents and young people need to learn it. They need to understand it because, like we said, it's not going anywhere. And you daily put out little bites, little learning bites for people. What are the key things that you believe are vital? Let's start with the parents. Let's name the sort of top 4 or 5. Like, I'm springing this on you a little bit now.
Yeah, no, that's
like,
fine.
What do you think the key things that parents need to learn about it for themselves or for their kids?
I think probably just before we delve into that, just taking one step back and thinking about comments that I see around, my kid knows more about AI than I do, which immediately hits me with concern. This is not just how to use email or a simple app. And yes, kids and particularly teens have always, as we mentioned earlier, great at picking up tools and running with them. But then on the other hand, you don't need to be a tech expert around this. I think around a lot of the conversations around AI that parents should be having with their young people come from a place of being a good, interested parent and interested in their lives and being a parent to sit alongside. And I think that sit alongside is really important, and that parents have their own experiences of AI or I think first of all, it's that awareness that AI is everywhere, whether it's really simply in the things that I've talked about. Then it's parents will have some of their own experiences of AI, and actually recognizing that we're now at the time of recording this in 2025, that we're all learning. Yes, I share information, but I'm learning all of the time around AI and its development and using it. So I think being able to be in a place where, as a parent, first of all, you think, I can't be a tech expert in this, and I don't need to be a tech expert. What I want to do is to come alongside my team and to understand how they're using it and to share our experiences together. And then out of that, providing a safe space. And I think as parents, it's really, it's some of the things I've talked about around that. Do we ban AI? And this is given everything that we've said, and particularly that you've articulated, it's very easy to go to that reaction that we're unsure, we don't know. And schools have been in this space as well, and it's been banned. And I also think from a parenting point of view, I'm very conscious about my child going through the pandemic. And I think we need to remember what our children have been through in the last, and particularly as teenagers, even if they're in that latter stage teenager, they're going into the pandemic in their early teens, then really thinking in that compassionate way about how we can work with them on this, and that recognizing it is new and that bans don't work. Look at prohibition of alcohol in the United States, and particularly with technology, all the evidence shows us that young people will be the people that will pick this up. And the way that AI is built, even with the safeguards that are put in place, it's then easy to get around because of the fundamental structures of things like ChatGPT. So it really comes from a position of empowering and being together and giving young people the empowerment to use this, but within the guidance and guide rails.
Yeah. And as a baseline for me, as a 25-year-long educator, for me, the most powerful way of enhancing positive behaviors is through information and learning. For example, the rights respecting type model. Don't punish negative behaviors, teach them how to solve conflict, go through the conflict resolution process, understanding the consequences of their chosen behaviors and having to deal with them or choosing to modify them. This is the way that we change behavior long term. And I think that goes hand in hand with AI. It's interesting, it's exciting, Kids want to see all that can be created and done with it. And if we ban it or we put it on shutdown, they'll find another way, but then they won't have the skills. They'll enter that space without the skills to use it with agency and maturity.
Absolutely, and the risk is that then they learn it from somewhere else, where
maybe you're not in control of, or as positive.
Exactly. And there's enough. One of the things around, I think, a phrase of AI literacy, about which is what you're expressing about how to use AI responsibly and safely. And one of those things is around using deep fakes. And there's a trend that's been going around understanding deep fakes. And with the technology that's increasing, it's ever easier for anyone to create a deep fake, whereas before you had to be a Photoshop expert. Yeah. Whereas now, there's been a recent viral trend of teens creating or staging break-ins by homeless people within relatives' homes, which is an appalling, irresponsible use of AI, but actually a great start point to teach lots of different things around ethical use of AI, being a good citizen, understanding the perspectives of homeless people, and not I can't think of the word, but
sort of degrading them or putting them.
Not dismissing their experience.
Yeah. So I think it's also a really good checkpoint at this point to look at your child's, what they're producing and think, have I done the best I can for their value sets and what they're showing me that they have within them, that then projects out onto their searches or their creations
and I think that AI literacy is about using. We talked about being a responsible adult and the value system that you come with, and as parents, we help create values within our young people.
Right.
It's the same. And again, when we talk about, yes, that start point is non-technical, but this is about being, again, as I think I said earlier, about being a good parent, about instilling values and using it as a tool to have those conversations.
Yeah, and I think there's a whole other podcast for us to do on the role of the teacher. Because
absolutely.
There's that, school is a wonderful place to explore, values and understanding of difference and history of how we've come together as communities and the horrors that have happened before when we didn't get it right. And I believe that there should be sort of a watch this space for the next ones in regard to teachers, because I think there's a huge responsibility there. But, I've heard sentences and statements, rhetorics from teachers saying, I'm proud of the fact that I've still gone through all my career and never used internet or AI. And we're the ones at the forefront of educating our future generation. We have to keep
up. And I think this opens up that really, absolutely. And I always remember you sharing that comment with me and being horrified. And I think that it opens up that conversation around what is the purpose of education and what is the purpose of education in a world that's changing ever faster.
Yes.
And I think it's an interesting one around bringing that back to ChatGPT and the use of it. You could say, write me an essay on climate change, copy and paste, send it off, but you can't assess it without a little bit of knowledge.
That's
so you need that in that background knowledge to make that informed decision around AI outputs, which is then for education. There's that knowledge, learning how to learn. And I think those what are those critical skills for an AI future? One of the things is learning how to learn, adaptability as a changing world, flexibility. And that's where the curriculum can really come. And I know you do some really great work around your work with young people around in developing those skills from a project-based approach.
And in my work, it's so empowering to see that when it's done right, children love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The maturity that they gain quicker than I ever thought they would is so empowering for me to see, and beautiful and so strengthening to know that these kids are going to leave these courses having had that skill and then that maturity. What are the key things that really we want to see kids learning? What are the opportunities for them? And what skills do they need to hone in their immediate, let's say I'm a parent and my kid wants to explore AI and they're kind of at that beginning point. What do I need to be focusing on to make sure they learn right from the outset?
I think one sort of base point is that we think about young people and their futures, and again, sort of touching on the education, but around there's various quotes that fly around the internet, but one of them is about AI won't take your job, but the person who knows how to use AI will take your job. And I think that hits the nail on the head for this as a title banner. And the young people, their world of work will be fundamentally informed, adapted, developed. Throw every word at it you can. And that if they don't know how to use AI, then they're going to be like a plumber who doesn't know how to use a spanner. And so being able to develop that familiarity with tools and how to use them responsibly and safely is absolutely key, because we can't rely on our schools at this point in order to give that instruction. And even countries, there's only something like over 5 or 6 countries that actually have any kind of national framework on how AI should be implemented in schools, and that's despite kind of UNESCO and etc. doing work around AI literacy. So in my view, I think it's about being able to, and I think another thing with AI that we get sucked into, and I know I get sucked into, is shiny object syndrome. There's a new AI app out every day.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do, and what I always tell parents and young people, and do this through the course that we offer together, that just forget the shiny tools. Just think about what are your personal interests, and become familiar with a form of AI. And that AI is called generative AI. And for most people, that means using ChatGPT or Gemini, or the ones, the Copilot, etc. And then becoming familiar with those tools, how they are built, why they are built like that, what that means in terms of how you use them ethically and responsibly, and what outputs that you can get.
Yeah.
And I think also it fundamentally starts with a bit of a contract, if you like, or rules at home. And one thing I advise young people, parents on, is to think about what are the rules of engagement for use of AI. And that looks at things like never sharing privacy information, using it out in the open and sharing conversations together. If you've got a team that's kind of hide away and doesn't talk about it and doesn't share it, again, that's the worst possible scenario. It's almost like the banning scenario. But being open with those conversations, showing what the young person is using ChatGPT for, setting in that no privacy, they are some of the 2 most fundamental house rules, if you like, to agree with your young person before they start developing and learning those tools.
I like that, really strong. And I think parents who commit to that will then commit to overcoming some of their fears or maybe prejudice to go through that learning journey with their child.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that comes to mind that I've used in my courses is to ensure that there's a purpose for using it. Because again, like anything, doom scrolling never really leads to anything positive. But if you're going in there as a young person with a reason, for example, to better your homework, or to create a project, or to do a video or a paper, or start, in my situation, it's to start a business, and mom and dad are starting a business together. And it's beautiful to watch, because then there's a reason to use the AI. Okay, tell me about the market trends within my area or globally, or help me deeply understand how my skills that I've got can link to something people are buying. And it's this type of deep intelligence, and then being critical of what you get back and saying, oh, I don't like that as much, I don't know if I agree with that, tell me more, help me understand this. Then you're going to get real positive experiences with these platforms.
Absolutely. And I think that, and out of that, they can develop and build a set of skills, but then also something that's really tangible, that's based around their personal interest. And I know that there was some interesting research, just to throw this in quickly, done by the Turing Institute in London at the beginning of this year about a manifesto for young people. And one of the clear things out of it was that they wanted the use of AI for good. And I think that's one great thing that we can develop with young people around for good, around their personal interests.
Beautiful.
And developing a project, which is one of the things I try to bring into the course that we run.
Yes, and on that note, we're going to go into talking about these courses that, or this course that Steve is developing, and it's going to be really empowering to hear about. But just quickly, I'm working with a lot of kids on courses, mostly in Europe and in London. And it's interesting how different cultures and different knowledge bases and different family settings are influencing how children respond to some of the things we've been talking about. Yeah. Stephen lives in Argentina, and you've been doing courses with kids and professionals and educators in Argentina. Do you find, again, that there would be a difference? I mean, I just think it's an interesting topic.
No, it's really interesting. And if you look at where the research is being done around family and young person use, then it's from the developing countries, and it's very heavily lent towards the English-speaking world, and so that it's the UK, that it's America, and then you look at the recent. There was a report issued earlier this month from the CDC in the USA that did a big survey of young people, and 1 in 5 using AI for companionship. From an extension of that is companionship is a big term, but you think about. And again, I posted about this and I had a comment from a young person which broke my heart, was about, and reinforced that we're using this for because we feel isolated and alone. And then I was talking about this in Argentina, and then that family structure of where family and community is so important and so often the reverse of the global north. And then thinking about, I'm personally fascinated in how AI is being used, but the research being done at a substantial level. But I don't see AI being used for loneliness or for companionship by young people in cultures like Argentina, from my own experience.
Beautiful.
But we could do a research project around that.
We should do a research project on that. And maybe we will. The more kids that join the course, we'll be able to see, because Stephen and I are working together to create this beautiful course that he's going to lead, and it will be accessible globally. So with the hope that kids from all different cultures will be taking the course together, and that would be a really interesting piece of research to do in how they access it and what kind of agency they're able to bring to the table, and then learn from it and how they use it.
And I think also that the values of parenting as well. And if you look at China's an really interesting example around AI, around how parents interact with their children. As I have quite a lot of familiarity with Chinese culture, and Chinese the hobbies that young people do are often chosen by their parents from a point of view of wanting to ensure that they develop the skills and the interests in what they think are the right areas. And I get that. And then looking at China with its very clear AI curriculum, and AI is becoming a very popular choice for parents in China. But anyway, that's a slightly different. That's slightly kind of going off.
Another podcast for another bit of research. I think I've frozen there. Okay, well, just finally then, to wrap up, I'm just really excited about this course, and I think that a lot of the structure of the course is kind of underpinned by everything we've been talking about. And so without sort of going over that again, like, what are some of the key things that you hope kids that leave your course will leave with?
Yeah, I think the first thing is the ultimate thing which I want these kids to use to leave from is that they have the skills and abilities to be able to use AI responsibly and ethically. And from that, it means be able to have the tools to use an AI, a generative AI, let's call it ChatGPT because it's just easier, but there are a variety of tools, whether that's for video creation or even image creation, that they can know how to use those tools, but critically, they know how to evaluate those outputs.
Yes.
And they use that, and they understand what inputs are going into the model, where the data is coming from, what the challenges are with that data, how that impacts the output, and that they are able to really critically evaluate with a really global mindset with how is this output going to affect other people. So again, kind of with that responsibility, and so touching on what I touched before, because we want a global audience in this, having a global perspective and a global awareness, and they become better citizens and better world citizens as a result. But fundamentally, being able to use the tools, to use the tools for a project that they are personally interested, that is for good, and to evaluate the outputs. So they are then have a foundation that they can build upon to continue, and that they come away with, we talked about it before, around being able to learn how to learn, and that they come away with a framework or a skill set that will help them develop their AI skills to continue for when they're going to apply for jobs in the future.
Amazing. And I know that it's rooted in project-based learning, and every child will select a project, and it could range from, you know, starting a faceless YouTube channel over to, I don't know, solving an issue with the waterway problem in their community. Whatever project they choose that is doable for them, they will be using AI to better their project aims, which is really, really powerful. And I know that the kids are just, can you imagine like how exciting to have kids being able to come away from this just so empowered, and having completed a project and having this kind of awareness and understanding of the use of AI. Because like you said right at the start of our conversation, it changes every day. There's something new every day, every week. So we can never ever teach them all the AI skills they need. What we need to teach them is to deeply understand the process and what it's for, and how to get the best out of it, as you said, learning that output, using data analysis. And then can you imagine as a parent sitting back and just knowing that your child has actually got more skills than the current graduate that CEOs are looking for when they enter the workplace? You know, a young person that's beginning to gain skills from a young age to analyze research, to come up with their own research sort of trends or you know, thought lines, and link it to data and link it to a project. And it's really beautiful, strong, empowering opportunities for our young people that's actually going to give them the skills they need for the world today, which, as you and I both agree, education does not.
Sure. Absolutely. I think just to add to that is that we very much come at this from a non-technical point of view. As a leader of the course or the instructor, I have a lot of interest in technology, as I said, but I'm not actually from a technical perspective. And we don't expect the young people to have that technical knowledge. And that goes back to the original point. You don't need to be a person with tech skills to use this technology. But for our futures, it's informing us right now, and it's going to inform our future. We need to have that understanding and awareness to put ourselves in a good position for the future in our own employment, our own work, and very much for our young people.
Very empowering. So we've kind of come to the end of our general aim of a 30-minute talk. So to keep in line with consistency, I'm going to bring it to a close. And what I generally like to do at the end is just to sum up. And I think, if I recall from our wealth of discussion, that some of the key main points are: don't let fear keep you from learning, because it's coming our way, it's in our world. Let's be informed rather than push it away and then be forced to use it at some point rather blindly.
100%.
The first one. I think another one was around doing it alongside your children and having a purpose. Find a purpose together with your teenager, whether it's, you know, the young entrepreneur and their parents. Parents and teens launch businesses together, or parents and teens explore AI together. You know, who knows? Parent, if you want to join the AI course with your kid, do it.
Absolutely.
You know, learn together, because it's, one, so empowering and uniting as a family, but two, you know the journey and you can see the value set that you've embedded in your child. And if you're not happy with it, you work on that as well. So that's amazing, sort of bit of guidance there. And then we had a lot of lists of things that they do need to know, which you can refer back to and rewind if you need to, but knowing that there is a lot of skills that need to be gained. And then finally, looking forward to the future of what actually they're going to be empowered with when they become adults, so that we set them off on the journey to be ready for this world that we don't even know what it's going to look like in a year or two.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as a small nugget for our listeners, I'm working very closely at the moment to develop AI instructors to support the education world. And the programmer that I'm working with, who has been in AI before the world knew about it, he says that within another year or two, most people who have degrees as computer science will not be needed, and that AI will be replacing it. So I think, again, another urge for all of us who are listening as parents or educators, don't only force ourselves to learn what we already know. We need to learn how to learn. We need to keep abreast with the new,
Absolutely.
what's in, and be, I don't know, maybe be willing to go away from human nature and jump into that risk and not be fearful of the new.
And be resilient and be creative and be brave. And they're all great skills, regardless of AI, to have as a young person or as an adult in their young lives.
That's exactly right. And to that aim, we've created a community. Well, I've created a community called You Connect Entrepreneurs. And it's inviting parents and their teenagers to come together and go through a lot of this learning. And with hopes, Steve's pre-recorded course will be up there soon. But until then, there will be links where you can pick up the course and book him for the dates that he's offering. So click the links below, explore everything we have on offer, and share your thinking. We really want to hear from you. If you want to get feedback from what you've heard today, we'll continue to have these types of conversations and put them back out to you, responding to the things that you share, or your concerns or your ideas or your disagreements or your ambitions. Because if the more we talk about it and open the conversation, the more successful we're going to be as parents and educators for our teens in this situation. So click the link below. And if you want to come on and be part of our Vocal Mind podcast to discuss these topical issues, please again contact me on info@uconnecthub.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And once again, thank you, Stephen, for the time and the insights and the wisdom that you've shared with all of us today. It's been empowering.
An absolute pleasure. I look forward to our next chat.
Yes, me too. It's going to be a good one. All right. Enjoy whatever time it might be in Argentina. I believe it's lunch.
It is lunch.
Heading off to the evening. So have a wonderful one, and we'll speak soon. And thank you, listeners. And if anyone hasn't told you yet today, remember that you are fabulous and can do whatever you choose. All the best.